Welcome back to Irish Illustrated Insider. It is Thursday, December 18th, the penultimate podcast prior to Christmas, guys. Say that one five times fast. I'm Tim O'Malley, joined by John Bryce of Football Scoop, Tim Priester of Irish Illustrated. The incomplete 2025 college football playoff begins this weekend, guys, and we'll touch on that one a little bit later, which I'm sure our listeners are going to love talking about the playoffs that Notre Dame is not in. There's at least two actual playoff teams playing this weekend, though, against each other, so that'll be fun. Some good news, actually, believe. We'll go to John Bryce right here on the Notre Dame assistant coaching front before we get into some NIL scheduling and, of course, everyone's favorite portal conversations.
Yeah, and T.O., you and I had kind of matched some information up on this over the course of the week as we chased it. But Al Washington had interviewed in depth at his alma mater, Boston College, to become the defensive coordinator for Bill O'Brien. Multiple sources telling me, I think O'Malley has similar information, that Al Washington has turned down that job with the intent to remain at Notre Dame as of now. So he's put Boston College to rest. I think he realizes there's a great thing here at Notre Dame. There's not such a great thing, even though it's his alma mater tugging at his heartstrings, where Bill O'Brien had a really step back year and faces a must-win campaign in 2026. So some good news for Notre Dame on the retention of assistant coaches front.
I was going to say, JB, he realizes that the situation at Boston College is not good, and that's really good for Notre Dame.
One quick note. Oh, sorry, Tia. One quick note. Just happening right now is Javon Codlin, the assistant D-line coach that Notre Dame hired from West Virginia last year, who's been a 30 under 30 for 247 and the Our Coaching Network that I host the podcast on. He is being targeted for an on-field defensive assistant job at North Texas, with the expectation he will accept that job to be a defensive assistant. That would be Javon reuniting with Neil Brown, his former boss at West Virginia, and again, a chance to move up.
He is we saw very little practice, as everybody knows. He is a figure at practice.
Oh man.
Man, he is. I mean, he's demonstrative. You immediately wonder who he is because he's also a smaller guy coaching defensive linemen. You're trying to figure out what's going on. You know how that works with defensive and offensive linemen. They're always ex-linemen, and you see this guy's like, what position did he play? But he's
he's demonstrative. His voice carries on the practice field.
He's fun. Priester, I don't know if I said this to you or Pete, but I think these are my words, not Al Washington. I think if you're Al Washington and you're interviewed for the head coaching job at Boston College, you're like, you believe in yourself, you take it, you go. If you want to be a head coach someday at Boston College or your alma mater anywhere, the worst way to get it is to go be the defensive coordinator when they're struggling because you might be fired someday and you're not coming back as a head coach when that happens. So
I mean, if they're 8-4, 9-3, and they're on solid ground, but Bill O'Brien's not on solid ground, and I don't think it's like, oh, Bill O'Brien sucks, we need to get rid of him. It's just a situation where they're in a bad way right now. And, some places are easier to turn around more quickly than others. And BC isn't one of those, at least not right now.
Hey, JB, just very quick. Oh, sorry, Bryce.
No, I was just going to chime in with a similar anecdote along those lines. You guys both make a great point about going home to your alma mater. And it's not always the case that it's a slam dunk decision when your alma mater is rolling. Blake Baker was the top target of the Tulane University search to replace John Summerall, who, of course, had replaced Willie Fritz. And those two guys combined won 40-plus games the last 4 years. Baker's, of course, the defensive coordinator at LSU. He pondered it. He played at Tulane. His wife is from Louisiana, played soccer collegiately in the area. He ultimately elected to stay at LSU. He's going to become about the highest paid or top 5 highest paid defensive coordinator in the country. But he knew, he really struggled with that because his alma mater has been doing so well that there's almost nowhere else for Tulane to go. And if he doesn't keep it there, inevitably there's going to be some hard feelings between a guy who loves his alma mater and an alma mater who loves the guy.
This isn't apples to oranges, but it's kind of like Jared Parker. You get the head coaching job at Troy. You don't go, I know he was already an offensive coordinator at Notre Dame, so you're not going to take it. But say it's a year prior, you don't go from coordinator, or you don't go from quarterbacks, tight ends coach at Notre Dame to be an offensive coordinator at West Virginia or something along those lines. But you get the head coaching job. It's something you have to take. Everybody has to buy into themselves when you have an opportunity to be the head coach of a college football team. Now, just worked out well for Notre Dame that he does not have that opportunity right now. JB, just very quickly, because it's not a fountain of information coming out there on the linebacker coaching search. You had one small tidbit, so there's no reason to turn it into a.
Yeah, I mean they're going through a very thorough process, but it's my understanding that they're looking closely at a couple of coaches who have both NFL and collegiate coaching experience, both maybe in the NFL right now, but they've been in college this decade or in recent years and been in power conference college football programs, pardon me. So that's how I'd frame that information.
Tim, I wanted to flip it to you before we get into the portal story I wrote because you did a portal film review, and I know it's we will have to talk about the transfer portal until January 31st, if not February something, even though it's going to close. So your film review, and Pete brought his name up originally, but you did a film review this week.
Yeah, Matini Baragba, which really actually is fairly easy to say if you give it a chance. Man, I mean, you want to talk about lightning quick off the snap of the football. He was, he grew up more of an edge guy. He was a defensive end, more of five technique for Georgetown, but he blew up there and then went to Wake Forest. And I'm not sure what exactly the deal was with the transition in 2024, but he really took off this year. He's more of a pass rush defensive tackle right now. So you have a little bit of concern about how he is against the run, but there were some of those similar thoughts with Jared Dawson. I thought he ended up doing a really nice job against the run.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just a matter of what a coaching staff emphasizes. And if he were to come under the tutelage of L. Washington, I'm sure L. Washington would do a good job. He's done a really good job with several transfers that have come to the Notre Dame defensive line. So Mateen Ibaragba is a name to keep an eye on. He will enter the portal on January 2. There will be a bunch of suitors. He will be expensive because he is lightning quick off the football. Man, you want to talk about a guy that can work his way down the line of scrimmage. And, he doesn't have a real high tackle total, but when you're penetrating on a regular basis and you're beating double teams, he's slippery. He's slippery when it comes to beating double teams. You're disrupting an entire running game. And you look at what Wake Forest did this year. And somebody said when I was talking about SMU and Louisville, and I think it was SMU. Yeah, it was SMU. Well, they lost to Wake Forest. Well, Wake Forest was good defensively. Okay, in the ACC, maybe not the bigger and better conferences, but they were pretty good. And a large reason that they were much improved and very good against the run and went 8-4 themselves was because of Ibaragba.
JB, I wrote a wide receiver portal story and since a running back portal story, but we want to get to wide receivers first because I did include, we believe the number one portal target at wide receiver is for Notre Dame, Michigan State's Nick Marsh, and that he will not, Notre Dame is not the only group that will be going after Nick Marsh, but I did not put him in there because he's a very good player. I put him in there because we believe he's a target for Notre Dame.
Yeah, I believe very strongly that he's a target for Notre Dame. I think there's some Notre Dame connections to him in the Detroit area that has helped Notre Dame get its foot in the door there. Our Eric Thomas telling us this morning it sounds like LSU emerging as a very serious suitor also for Nick Marsh, and of course Lane Kiffin may have switched zip codes, but I don't think he's disbanded his Portal King moniker. And he's getting ready to take a bunch of players from Ole Miss when this season is done, or he's going to try to, and he's getting ready to try and supplement other positions from the portal as well. So that one's an intriguing one. But Notre Dame has been advanced in its homework of Marsh and advanced in establishing, the chance to be involved there once he's officially in and contact is legally allowed and all of that.
I think the real news is not news. It's not officially reported yet. As we believe Jaden Greathouse is coming back, re-signing with Notre Dame, which is different in print when you say resigning and re-signing. It's very careful now in the portal era, Tim Priester. So be prepared for that on the message board, messing that up like I did.
Now I'm confused. Now I'm confused. Which is which?
Yeah, he will be re-signing,
Get the
coming
hyphen.
back.
Hyphen is good. Hyphen? No hyphen is bad.
Hyphen good. No hyphen real bad. Yeah. So Jaden Greathouse hyphen. And I believe, and Jordan Faison too, and somebody on the board, I think Faison made a post on Instagram, so everybody thought he was, people think Instagram must mean he's going somewhere. I mean, Faison's I had him as the least likely human to ever leave Notre Dame because he's got two sports, his brother coming in. He's very good, not great. He can't say I'm foregoing the NFL draft to return. They didn't invite you. So, I mean, George Faison's a really good player, but he's not going pro early. Jordan Faison, we believe, has re-signed as well. That would be re-signed as well. That would be the portal story. But I think the biggest one is we also heard Aeneas Williams will return to Notre Dame, and that's big because if they didn't have Aeneas Williams, they'd have to go they wouldn't only go big game
Yeah.
hunting in the portal, they'd have to go total hunting in the portal.
And I wrote about that in Thursday Thoughts today, and a lot of people, a lot of fans on our website have expressed, how confident they are in Aeneas Williams, and I am too. But do not expect, we've taken for granted just the flat out speed of Love and Price,
Yeah,
and Williams isn't that kind of back. I know he's had a couple long runs, but when you get a good running start and you shoot through the line and you catch the secondary off balance, that doesn't mean that he's running by everybody. He's a physical back. When you're tackling him moving forward, you better account for him. You better bring more than one guy because he will power his way through. But they don't have that breakaway speed. And somebody mentioned Jonas Walton because he's a 10.6. He ran a 10.6. I don't think that he plays that fast. That's why I've suggested that he's better running between the tackles than he is kicking it outside. So very, very rarely do you have that breakaway component like Price and Love have, and I don't think that Notre Dame will have that, but that doesn't mean they can't have a great running game led by Aeneas Williams. He's a quality back that's going to have a great opportunity now.
And along those same lines, guys, as we've discussed all week long, negotiations ongoing. Some guys are being asked to take significant pay cut, some younger players. Also, some renegotiations going on to get CJ Carr a new deal. I think that is progressing very promisingly, is what I was told. And of course, I would expect CJ Carr to replace Jeremiah Love as the highest paid player on the Notre Dame roster in 2026. That's how it's been indicated to me very strongly.
And I would expect Leonard Moore to remain number 2 with a little bump because
Yep.
did I bring this up yet? Leonard Moore and Jeremiah Love both named unanimous, not consensus All-Americans, unanimous for the 38th and 39th time in Notre Dame football history. They are the 112th and 113th All-American. I almost said that wrong when I was talking pre-pod with Tim, and I was like, they can't have 112 unanimous All-Americans. That's insane. So 38th and 39th. And the reason this matters, when you're up for the Hall of Fame, if you're a unanimous All-American,
Yeah.
it is much different than was named All-American by the Sporting News or was named All-American by the AP. You're a unanimous All-American, you will be considered very quickly for the Hall of Fame. And Leonard Moore has another year to become a unanimous All-American again. When you say Hall of Fame, you don't think Leonard Moore yet. You do think Jeremiah Love. But now, if Leonard Moore could do it again down the road, that is huge.
And real quickly, worth noting, Jadarian Price, second team All-American honors today. So very impressive. Gives you an idea of exactly why we said wire to wire this season that Notre Dame had the best backfield in all of college football, the backfield that should still be playing college football.
I want to bring this up because I caught myself in the mistake, but as people know, I voted for Jeremiah Love. Obviously, I voted for the Doak Walker Award. I was going through the kick returners for my Football Writers Association All-American ballot, and I just was like not thinking because I was thinking where I was like, I'm not voting for Price as a first team All-American. Obviously, we don't have second team votes when you're doing it, so he's going to appear. And then all of a sudden it occurred to me, I'm like, he's the first team kick return All-American. It took me, a guy covering him, to sit there and be like, oh yeah, Jadarian Price is the number 1 guy here because he did it against teams that mattered too. I mean, he was a spark against Purdue and he did it against USC. What a backfield they had. Good God.
I mean, think if like before we were recording, O'Malley and I were talking about, the votes and Love wasn't really close when you consider that Mendoza had over 600 first place votes. But think about if way back when, a couple years ago, they said, Jeremiah, you get back there and return kickoffs.
Right.
I mean, I think that he probably could have done something very
could have
similar
been
to
good
what
at it too. Yes.
Jadarian Price did, and then his credentials to win the Heisman would have been that much better. But that kept Jadarian Price happy for the short term, and then they shared the load at the running back spot, and now they're both going to reap the benefits of that.
And it was neat to see Dylan McCullough in New York with
Yeah.
Love last weekend. Now they were playing in Philly, so it was an easy trip for him to get there Saturday night once the Raiders were already flying to New York. But kudos to Dylan, who was always a class guy. Have great admiration and respect for him, and so I wanted to shout that out because I thought it was really freaking cool.
Oh, Priest and I both love talking to Dealin. We just knew that we just knew that Dealin knew that he was a good running backs coach as well. That was our running joke. It's not like we didn't love talking to the guy. He was well aware that he was a good running backs
Well,
coach, and
I
he
mean,
was.
remember when we had the first meeting with those guys in the Chivarelli Lounge, and I went up to him. I may have been the first guy to approach him that day.
You were actually,
Right,
yeah.
and I
Yeah.
brought up,
They were all there at the same time.
right, and I
Yeah.
brought up, his famous story about how he met his father and what have you, and he was like already exasperated that I was bringing it up. It's like, dude, I just met you. I gotta ask you about it. But no, I mean, he was fun to deal with. He had a
Yeah.
lot of opinions. He was, he's a confident football coach. You got to be confident to coach at that level. I get that completely. And he did a good job, and he found ways to get more than two running backs on the field too.
Yeah, and when we start talking about this roster, there's some notes from my conversation with Dealin before the Georgia game that still apply because you're at the Georgia game, you're not asking Dealin McCullough about Jeremiah Love. I know how good Jeremiah Love is. I was able to ask Dealin McCullough about Aeneas Williams and Keaton Young, so we'll be getting to that later. But I loved Dealin McCullough's tweet to put this part to bed. He said, "Late to tweet, but I was in on the ground floor of Love and Price."
I
That's
love
that's
that.
another great way of saying it. Like, yeah, I'm just tweeting about it now, but I had a little something to do with this one.
Yeah, yeah.
He's now the NFL's highest paid running backs coach, is my understanding, but he's going to have plenty of suitors this offseason as well.
JB, there's been some conversation on the board, and we put it on the board, but some questions about how finalized the home part of Notre Dame's schedule is. We believed it was a while ago, but you kind of followed up on this with another note in our pre-show.
Yes, I did. Let me find
We were on November 8th range with this one, but
Yes,
this
yes.
is
Okay, here we go. We've had a number of people have asked. I've had a number of people on campus now tell me we spilled the dates earlier of what the home games would be. Now we believe we're able to correctly match up all the opponents with said home dates. So Notre Dame's first home game, as is known, will be September 12th against Rice. That's a week after the Irish open the season in Lambeau Field against Wisconsin. The next week, I should note right here on the front end, Notre Dame has 3 sets of 2 consecutive home weekends.
oh
So
yeah, yeah.
9/12 is Rice. 9/19 will be Pat Fitzgerald and the Michigan State Spartans with Max Bulla in tow. October 10th is SMU. October 17th is Stanford. November 7th is Miami. And November 21st is Boston College. That's how it's been put to me by a couple of people on campus. We know that civic leaders also have confirmed
Yeah.
those dates for South Bend city awareness so that they can plan logistics, law enforcement, EMS services, all of those things. But that's the order of the games, and that's the 6 home games as it's told to us.
Tim, what I find interesting there is there's a month of, well, not quite a month, but there's a big chunk right there where you're going to have 2 road games and a bye, probably, right, between MSU and SMU. So it's not a month, it's 3 weeks, but it will obviously be 2 road games and a bye in there. You're not going to have 3 road games in a row. So we know that maybe the bye will be week 1, 2, 3. It's either 4 or 5 when you're looking at it in that realm.
Mm-hmm.
Well
Is there a bye between Miami and BC?
I don't know that there
Or
is.
is that that's a
Next
road
year,
game?
I'm quite
probably a
certain.
road game.
Yeah, I do want to point out also, I'm fairly certain that next year is a one-bye calendar for all of college football. I do not think that any teams get 2 byes next year in college football. I think the way the calendar falls, it is strictly a one-bye
Doesn't
season.
doesn't that, like, you have back-to-back years and then you don't for
I can't
like
keep.
yeah. I think
I try.
we had 2. Yeah, I think that was 2 years in a row we had double
We had
byes,
2
right?
years in a row, we had 2
2 years in a
byes.
So
row.
now you
Yeah,
won't have
yeah,
it for like
yeah.
5 years.
And I messed up, guys. That's not 3 weeks.
That's just 2 weeks.
There's
Yeah.
just 2 games in between there. They can just be 2 home games. They can just be 2 road games, guys.
Thanks for borrowing my math dunce cap today.
Yeah, it's like I'm reading it. I'm like, wait a minute. You can easily just fit 2 games in there.
We'll get
So
it. We'll
probably
get it
2 road
figured
games.
out. When we have the information, we'll let
Well,
you know.
probably a later buy then. 2 road games and a later buy is what I think we're looking at. That's one way of putting it. All right, we are going to talk about the college football playoff, as incomplete as it is. I'm going to use this question before we get the spreads. I'm going to use this question from Maz1515. I didn't put it in segment 2, so people wouldn't turn off off their radios. Who do you want to win, and who do you not want to win? And I want to give credit to Maz1515 because he went through everybody. he settled on Oregon because he had a beef with everybody else, and family reasons negated him wanting IU to win, which I thought was good times too, because we've all been there before.
I can relate to
Basketball,
that.
Tim Priester.
Us Indiana people,
Yes.
South Bend people can relate to that. Yes.
I thought it was an interesting one. Obviously, you're not going to have. I mean, we all want JMU or Tulane to win it, but that's not going to happen. I would say, or I'd like to see IU win it. I'd live with it. I'll live with IU winning it. It's a miracle. It's amazing if IU.
It's a miracle.
Even in the NIL
I mean,
transfer portal era, it's incredible.
It's unbelievable. I mean, you can say that. Well, Kurt Signetti, he brought all his guys over from James Madison. Well, so what? I mean, a year ago, you would have thought that was so what? He brought his guys from James Madison. But like I said recently, Signetti has two teams in the 12-team playoff with James Madison there as well. I could live with Indiana winning it, I guess.
It'd be funny if Ole Miss won it.
Yeah, that would be pretty wild. I mean, I know that. I want Alabama and Oklahoma to both lose because neither one of them probably deserve to be there. Maybe Oklahoma does, but do they a home game?
Right, Oklahoma could be there, not in a home game. Yeah,
yeah. In Alabama, clearly, in my mind, and I've said this for since the committee announced them, and they don't belong there. But they're probably going to beat Oklahoma. Maybe, I don't know. That actually is a pretty good matchup, mainly because of the flaws of the two teams.
The over-under there, JB, is 39.5 in that game.
Yeah, I think I would take the over in that Alabama Oklahoma game. Yeah, definitely. This is a tough one for me. We just honored Will Myers at Georgia today as the Football Scoop Director of Player Personnel of the Year. It's going to be announced tomorrow, the General Manager of the Year. It's the first time we've split the categories like that. Teamworks has partnered with us, so it's a really exciting time. But I bring up Will because his story is fascinating. He lost his dad just a few years ago, actually walked in and found his dad dead. He had passed away from a sudden heart attack. He worked for free in the South Carolina weight room and recruiting department. When he was a grad student, he had a 3 a.m. to noon shift in the South Carolina weight room, then immediately went noon to 7 to work in recruiting, again for $0.00 per hour. The weight room thing was an internship and also his capstone project. So he had to work in the weight room and do the workouts with the players because he had to present his project of what the results were. So I have tremendous respect for him, but I've known Nick Sheridan at Alabama a long time, Matt Wilson at Indiana, and Blake Jackson, their DFO. So that's just a long-winded way of saying I can't remember exactly who I picked in a bowl pool that I enter nationally that's based out of Phoenix, but I've won it 2 of the previous 4 years, and I'm hoping to repeat this year. So whoever I picked there is who I want to win. And I think it was I don't know. I'll find it before the second segment and I'll tell you. But that's my basis. Like, I just want to win the bowl pool.
If Georgia hadn't won back-to-back titles, I know a lot of, obviously lived in Atlanta for 10 years, I know a lot of long-time Georgia Bulldog fans, but they won back-to-back titles a couple years ago. So I'm not necessarily in the, let's let Georgia get their more championships.
Yeah.
Either as an outside observer. So Indiana be great. I mean, I like Mike Elko a lot. Mike Elko, I like to see A&M beat Miami. I guess if Miami wins the national title, they're coming to Notre Dame on November 7th.
Well, that's the only good thing. Yeah, I want to clarify because of some of the things that happened a couple weeks ago. I absolutely do not want Miami to win a football game. Absolutely not. I want A&M to beat them. Other than the possibility of them coming in really hot to Notre Dame in November, but no, I'm not. I'm not cheering for Miami. I never have, and I never will.
I found it here. I actually picked a championship game of Oregon versus Ohio State, and I guess I have Ohio State repeating in that scenario.
I have one funny comment I think a lot of people will enjoy. My friend texts my Notre Dame grads, all the people that travel to a game a year, if not more, for the last 30 years. At some point, somebody wrote in, my friend Brian wrote, "The impossible has happened. The SEC has made us all Ohio State fans." Because with the SEC and the playoff, he's like, you know what? Let's just keep that national title out of the SEC. And I think it's an interesting thing. Notre Dame fans are probably like, yeah, I'll take Ohio State.
Well, yeah, because as soon as they win a national title, they'll be clamoring for 8 or 9 teams in the playoffs. And
It'd be quite the feat if they get 5 of the first 9 seeds and then they fizzle out yet again.
Yeah, that would be.
How do you guys see that just seriously here now, the Miami A&M game
I like
shaking
A&M.
out?
I like
I
A&M
like
at home.
I
A&M.
do too. I do
Yeah.
too.
I think with this much time to prepare, I think Elko will really be problematic for Carson Beck.
Carson Beck, yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
would
do.
agree.
And
And
I knew
then
we knew Mike Elko, and Elko was a neighbor of mine very briefly, and his kids were at the same Easter egg hunt as me. So I'm voting for Mike Elko over Carson Beck and Mario Cristobal. There is no
and
doubt
then
about
also, what environment remotely close to A&M did Miami play in
it.
this year?
Oh,
There isn't one.
that
There
place is
isn't one.
stinky.
There
That
isn't.
place
Their
is
toughest
stinky.
environment would have been having a 60-40 split in the Orange Bowl against Notre Dame. That's it. Like they didn't play in a tough environment other than that. I mean, Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh's
Oh, that place was
pro
empty.
town.
That place
Ah,
was empty. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that lasts for about a minute and a half, and
yeah,
then it's over with.
exactly.
yeah. Well, we would break everything down, but nobody cares about the college football playoff right now, so we're just going to go ahead and watch some of it. And if you don't want to watch it, I don't blame you,
Right,
listeners.
and I, like I always do, and I do it because I have fun doing it, and it's guesstimates. I mean, I
I
don't.
saw that pop up, and I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, no, I mean it's guesstimates. I just I spend the whole month just kind of monitoring the games every day. I'm off to a good start, knock on wood. But I realize a lot of people you don't care about the Bulls. That's great. Don't care about them. You don't have to comment on every time I post a bowl prediction pregame, but having fun with it, and I hope some people do too. Not too many do.
I know some people that don't care about the bowl, and they live in our city. We'll be back with segment two, burning up the boards. With football season winding down, I've been trying to find the best tickets, both for family and friends, but also as a memorable gift idea. That's why I want to offer the sponsor of today's Burning Up the Boards, SeatGeek, a huge shout out. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. So whether you're an Irish fan looking for a ticket to the AC/DC concert next September or any of the NFL playoff matchups coming up down the road, SeatGeek has your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. Look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad, and every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. Of course, I have a code for you guys. You can use Irish10, that's all capital letters in the number 10, for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. 10% off any tickets with promo code Irish10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you, SeatGeek. First question, segment 2, comes from The Rick ND. Backup quarterback has been mentioned as a, quote, top 4 position of need in the portal this year. While I agree that an experienced QB for just in case Carr gets hurt would be nice, I don't know where we'd find one. Is it reasonable to expect someone to come in as number 2 with no real hope of becoming a starter other than injury?
It's not reasonable, but it's something that you have to attempt to accomplish. Otherwise, Blake Hebert's your backup. No playing experience, not exactly sure what he's going to bring to the equation. This is a problem that is going to happen all over the country. Even when a walk-on Rezac leaves the program, it's a loss to the program. So of course you have Noah Grubbs coming in. JB, do you have a line on anybody Notre Dame might be able to line up as a legitimate backup?
I don't yet. I've reached out to several agents this week trying to get a gauge on things, and guys are still being a little bit more selective in how they're trickling out the news that they're going into the portal. Notice that Bo Pribula announced today that he's leaving Missouri, and Missouri went ahead and very quickly announced that it was excited to have the other cat, Zollers, I think is his name, starting in the bowl game for them. And I would point to what Ole Miss did last year. They really believed that Austin Simmons was their future at the position. He was the guy they had recruited and signed, but they brought in Trinidad Chambliss from D2, from the D2 levels, and look what that worked out. I mean, he became an all SEC quarterback. There are going to be a lot of really good quarterbacks from the FCS level and the FBS level going into the portal. And a lot of those FCS guys, I think, are willing to bet on themselves. They do have significant game experience. Now, two who are not going into the portal, I'm told directly this week, South Dakota State quarterback is a young star. And I'm told he turned down 7 figures to play next year at South Dakota State. And I still think he'll have 1, if not 2 years after that. And I think the pitch was come back and you'll be able to earn even more. Similarly, at Austin P, Chris Parson, who began his career at Mississippi State, was that conference's player of the year. He had significant, $750,000 offers in the ACC and the SEC this month already, should he go into the portal for his reps. And instead, he's returning to Austin Peay. So those are two guys that power conference programs that kind of had circled. They're staying put, which means there's going to be even more fierce competition for the guys who go into the portal.
And I think the secondary FCS guys that are older would be happy to come back up CJ Carr, because if CJ Carr gets hurt, you're quarterbacking one of the best teams in the country and trying to play in a playoff game. I do believe you could convince a quality older quarterback with 2 years remaining to
Right.
come to Notre Dame, because CJ Carr will go pro after his junior year, and then the reins are yours as long as you prove it and you pay him to come in.
Right.
That is possible. You're not getting, the Trinidad Chambliss thing, but you're getting a guy that, like, hey, you could bet on yourself. If you impress us more than the freshman, you just got to beat out the freshman. Even if Teddy Gerard reclassifies, you just got to beat out freshmen. You could be the quarterback when CJ Carr goes pro. And if CJ Carr has to come back for some reason or chooses to come back, you're Notre Dame's backup quarterback. You could go somewhere else. It's not like you're stuck, especially if you're a graduate. I think there's plenty of avenues to offer somebody a shot at Notre Dame's backup job.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you're not getting Sam Levitt. You're getting a guy that 2 years to be like, all right, okay, maybe I will start at Notre Dame if you don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah.
Well, no, and you're competing with other schools to do the same thing too. So
yeah, but you're paying. Like, let's be, most of these guys that are at the FCS level might be making 50, 75, 100,000. There's not a ton of quarterbacks. There are several, more than we would all realize. I didn't realize it until this week, how many FCS quarterbacks are making six figures, but there's still not a ton. And we know that Notre Dame can pay a backup quarterback, very handsomely.
I just feel like the depth chart at Notre Dame this year, and even going into next year, this year it's your job. We are bringing you in.
I hear what you're saying,
and you just got to beat up two 18-year-olds. So I know it's not the simplest thing in the world, but it's not impossible when you think of the money's the lure, and Notre Dame is great, not good. You're not getting someone to come into 2023 Notre Dame. You're getting someone. I think they could have done this last year really well if Angeli and Minchie bolted. You'd be like, all right, get in here, back up.
Yeah.
And now it's even a little easier because he's 1 year removed. We all think he'll be good enough to go pro. Obviously, he can make his own decision on that.
Yeah.
From CMU Pens fan, what do you think Bryce Young needs to do for the 2026 season to create a more noticeable impact on the field? I like the wording of that.
Go ahead, John.
I think just continuing to work on his explosiveness a little bit. I think he's still getting comfortable completely with his frame and his body. And he put on some weight last year and looked like a monster. He's so strong that he can play a hybrid position. Like, he still has some upside when they slide him along the interior. But I think he's got a chance to develop and to have more of a Josh Burnham type season next year, but also he's just bigger and a little bit more physically gifted than Burnham. That's kind of how I assess that.
Yeah, by the way, love the season that Josh Burnham ended up turning in the last half.
Yeah.
Really, really, really impactful. I mean, I think we all kind of had the same impression that, okay, he may have put on a little bit too much weight. When we first heard about it and saw it, it was like, oh, okay, wow, big, strong dude. But again, I don't think we can emphasize this enough. He's still a young guy. And because of the way he grew, he went from 6'2" to 6'7" in a heartbeat. And look, all these guys, we put them on a pedestal because they're great prospects, they're NFL prospects. But when you grow like that, it does take a little bit of time. So I'm hopeful. I mean, I think he needs to make sure that he's big but streamlined. I think he needs to be in the best physical condition of his life. And then maybe the second year through, as he's trying to grow into his body, it becomes a little bit more comfortable for him. I just have read some comments along the way about, I mean, a lot of guys are growing and stuff. I think it's a little bit different for him. He grew to the extent that most guys just don't do. And I realize being, Bryant Young's son, there's a little different degree of expectation placed upon him. But growing into your body second time through at this size, I'm hopeful that he can, get to that. But he's got to be more explosive than what we saw in 2025.
Yeah, and growing to his body is exactly what I was going to say. I think it's he will in 2 years. He has to, of course, in 2 years, but that's the project. But to give him a little credit, like statistically, whether
Yeah,
Pro Football
you
Focus,
mentioned this the second
yeah,
half.
whether Pro Football Focus is right or not, I'm still just comparing Notre Dame players, so they're still grading the same game. It's not like they're grading across games. Bryce Young only had 3 sacks, but he led the team in quarterback hits with 7, that are not including sacks. He was second in total pressures behind Boubacar Traore, and he was only 3 behind Traore in total pressures. Like we don't think of it that way. He tied with Kingston Viliamu also, by the way, but obviously they need Bryce Young to hit the ground running because Viliamu Asa had an injury, but he was probably more productive than we gave him credit for, Bryce Young. I think it's just we all had him in our top 15 preseason. Like,
Yeah,
we
he
all thought he was breakout guy.
he definitely played his best football in November, and
Yeah.
that's a strong sign. That's what you want.
Yeah,
Also,
and the last thing I would note before reading the next question would be also we've heard many different players at many different position groups talk about how Lauren Lando does a great job of working with them and having them do position specific drills to increase their explosiveness, to increase their velocity. And so I think this is a critical offseason for Bryce Young working more with Lauren Lando to get some of that explosiveness at that position.
JB, before you go, to give him one more positive, since we spent a lot of questions about Bryce Young and not living up to his billing. He had 196 snaps on the outside. He had 75 directly over the tackle and 38 in the B gap. He's the only defensive end that was doing B gap snaps also, along with, that's usually for the defensive lineman. So he's not going to lose his body. He's a young player that was in a multifaceted role, and I'm sure it wasn't an easy transition for him, probably.
No,
By the
but
way,
go ahead, TP.
I was just going to say Ibaragba would be a guy that you can move around like that. He would be. You could play him inside or play him outside.
And I was just going to say positional versatility, like the metrics that T.O. just spouted off, never really a bad thing for a guy like that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Question number 3 from Bobby 1556. After signing day, a lot of lists had Ian Premer as the number 1 signee for Notre Dame. If he is actually the number 1 freshman Indy is bringing in next season, is there any chance he could have an instant impact as a freshman like a Michael Mayer or a Brock Bowers? Admittedly, Bowers is the extreme case of instant impact, but especially with a quarterback as good as CJ Carr throwing the ball to him. Gentlemen, the floor.
Go ahead, Tim.
I was going to say, go ahead, TP, because I was just going to say, let's keep Brock Bowers' 13 touchdown freshman year out of this one. All right. Michael Mayer was very good, but his 2 touchdown freshman year is not the same thing as Brock Bowers' 13 touchdown freshman year. He will not be Brock Bowers for Notre Dame's offense this year, because that, my friends, is a unicorn in college football, Brock Bowers. I think it boils down to Flanagan, the elder's recovery, because Cooper Flanagan was trending to have a very good sophomore year before he ruptured his Achilles during Indiana week. He would have been a major player for Notre Dame this year alongside Eli Raridan. So if Flanagan is truly a 1 and not just working in Congress with Ty Washington and the younger Flanagan, I think if you have a 1 there, then you're not going to have Premer be in the starting role range. But I think he will contribute immediately for Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think I think Premer's a sensational talent. There's no doubt about that. And Tim, I agree. I mean, Cooper Flanagan will probably be your number 1, but he's not your number 1 pass catching candidate. Premer is. So, I mean, from that perspective, I'm open minded about it. I also know he's from small town Kansas, and that transition to major college under the spotlight, Notre Dame. He had. I mean, I believe I'm correct in saying this. When the interview, when the recruiting process started, I think he had some doubts about being able to play at that level. Am I correct on that? I mean, I think, coming from, yeah, I mean, again, just small town Kansas. I mean, this is a huge step up. But I mean, as far as talent, I think I put Rodney Dunham first just because, I mean, a pass rusher of that magnitude, all things being equal, I have to choose a pass rusher first. But my clear number 1 prospect on the offensive side of the ball is Premer. I think he's a sensational talent. I just wonder if he can adapt to the magnitude of playing at Notre Dame to the extent like Michael Mayer did.
And I'm clearly talking freshman year only. Like when I'm saying, yeah, obviously,
yeah, no, I know.
He's going to be a great player. Yeah, I just if they get a receiver that is the best receiver on the team. So if they get a Malachi Fields, they get Nick Marsh, something along those lines, and you have the number one receiver and Jaden Greathouse and Jordan Faison, and we're about to get to the other two guys here. I just feel like the receivers can do more heavy lifting than when Michael Mayer came in, and it was Javon McKinley, Ben Skoranek, and Braden Lindsey.
True. It'll be a better group.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he has a great chance to make an impact next year because we know there's some health issues to ask there, and Jack Larson has yet to take the next step. I think that bears continuing to watch. And I believe Premer is part of the 24 mid-year enrollees, right?
He is. It's
yeah.
he is. I'll get the list. Yeah.
So that's going to give him 8 months.
Actually, you know what? No, he is not.
This
is bad podcasting. I don't say bad radio anymore, but you go ahead. You know what? It's okay if you're not, though, because the number one freshman recruit coming in every single year comes in the summer, as it turns out. So we're absolutely fine here. I'll get this right while you're talking.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the depth chart invites a player of his skill and skill set to come in and make an immediate impact. And I do think the point of the questioner is a really good one in saying, especially with a quarterback like CJ Carr, who was really, really good this year and is expected to take an even stronger leap in 26.
He is not, nor is
Okay.
Patrick. Nor is Patrick.
All right.
You lose Eli Raridan. I mean, I think Cooper Flanagan, I think it was a huge loss this year. And I'm not saying James Flanagan can't help them. I don't think that James Flanagan is on the same level as Ian Premer when it comes to the passing game. Yeah. That would be me. Question number 4, Indy, Quebec. Do any of the following receivers, Logan Saldate, Cam Williams, Micah Gilbert, Jerome Bettis, Elijah Burris, do any of those guys have a chance to start next year? And what about the 5 incoming freshman wide receivers?
I will say I think that Saldate or Gilbert could emerge as a starter next year. It's going to take some work. Gilbert, of course, has the best frame, I think, of that grouping. He's 6'2". He's already a little over 200. He showed some flashes this year. He can do some different things for you out on the edge. So, and then Saldate, it all depends. Like O'Malley has shared that the expectation Greathouse returns.
Yeah,
that changes the math formula a little bit there because you expect Greathouse and Faison to definitely be 2 of your starters, and then where do you go from there? But yeah, I think that Gilbert or Saldate could emerge as a starter in 26. I don't think the freshman. I'd be a little surprised if a freshman cracks the starting lineup next year.
I expect a grad transfer, Greathouse and Faison to start. And Gilbert would be my next, not guess, but projection because he played against Miami, for God's sakes. He obviously was he got hurt. He needs to stay healthy. He broke both fingers to start the spring, and then he was also hurt in August, and he still played against Miami and scored the touchdown. So he'd be my next one in, but I go Burris next. Elijah Burris is my 5th right now, assuming one grad transfer is all I'm saying. That.
Yeah, I mean, clearly Micah Gilbert. Micah Gilbert's a guy that they liked from the very beginning, and they wanted to fast track him. And Tim, you mentioned the fingers and some of the other stuff. I think Burris is going to have to come along a lot faster. We all remember the day that Mike Denbrock talked about his inability to pick up the playbook and some of the nuances of that. So, a little bit of hesitation there. I've liked Saldate since I saw his high school film. We've heard along the way a couple times that he was kind of knocking on the door, and then it didn't happen. Kadon Finley from the freshman class, the true freshman class, I think is a real talent. The genes, the background, and just the way he plays the game, I like him a lot. But Tim's right. I mean, I think you're going to have a transfer in there that immediately steps into the starting lineup. Jordan Faison was the leading receiver this past year, and Greathouse, if he can stay healthy and can be in that number 1 spot, he can play. So I don't know how many. You don't really need those guys necessarily to be in a starting role, but you need Gilbert and Burris and at least 1 or 2 of the freshmen. I really like Braden Robinson. He's a little receiver, but I think he's really, really tough. He's kind of one of my sleepers. in that freshman class, along with who's the, oh I like Nick Reddish. I know he's small for safety. I don't know exactly how he fits in, but he would be one of my sleepers. But
It
I
would be
don't.
awful if Nick Reddish starts at receiver though next
Yeah,
year.
yeah, no. Just
Horribly wrong.
I
Yeah.
when I said sleeper, I wanted to make sure that I mentioned him because I'm not sure I had said that before. But I just don't know. Gilbert for me is definitely the guy because as O'Malley said, I mean he was in the running from the very beginning.
Next question comes from J Burke 87. Are there discussions among the sports leadership, he puts in quotations, to change the method and approach to ranking teams? It seems to me the discussion has drifted away from the committee manipulating the ranking to benefit certain powers rather than build an unbiased ranking in good faith. And he notes the commentary about removing the weekly show is not a fix. That's just making sure they don't get caught next year. And they're not going to remove that weekly show because that was must-see TV for everybody. And Notre Dame fans might boycott it for a while. But if Notre Dame's number 2 next year, when that show comes out, you're all going to watch it.
Well, and also like it does force some semblance of transparency. Like we've further are certain that Notre Dame got jobbed out of a spot because of where Notre Dame stayed throughout every single ranking of the process, and the fact that it had never happened to a team, what happened to Notre Dame. So, and the fact that they just completely walked all over their own words week after week, especially the final week when they dropped BYU, which led at the half or was down 13-7 at the half and led in the first quarter, but didn't drop an Alabama team that was -3 rushing yards and on the field with its offense for 22 minutes. Anyway, there are discussions. There are ongoing discussions. I would be surprised in future iterations if we see any scenario where there's 2 G5 teams into the college football version of the big dance. So there are ongoing discussions. We know Notre Dame signed the MOU. We also know that we've seen rankings can be gerrymandered by the committee. And so a number 12 ranking going into the last Saturday doesn't mean absolutely anything whatsoever. It's not worth the paper that that's printed on.
The greatest crime, well, a couple, is that just you woke up the next day and Alabama's ahead of Notre Dame. Like why?
Yeah.
Why did that happen? I read this question. It's a good question. I understand it, but as long as Sankey's in charge of the SEC, and the SEC still thinks they can get 7, 8, there should get 7, 8, 9 guys in. We just witnessed the utter manipulation of the system to get an Alabama team into the playoffs that doesn't deserve to be there and didn't deserve to be there last year. And I hope Oklahoma beats them by 3 touchdowns.
In what is going to be a failed attempt to, sorry, JB, real fast, what a failed attempt to answer this question directly is, I think he wants to know, can there be a method where FEI, that is one of the votes? The committee, that is worth 2 of the votes. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
Yeah,
otherwise
but
you could just change it every time. You could just be like, "Oh man, the committee really loved Notre Dame, but FEI had them 13th, so they're out." I mean, like you could just make it up. That's why you need to say ahead of time, the committee has this percentage of the votes. However, it's superseded by these 3 computer rankings that can overlap anything like that. That's what he's looking for. You need
that.
I think thing.
Yeah, that would be great. But is there any indication that's going to happen?
I think there's real discussion about it, or as it was told to me, there's real discussion about going back to the BCS days. I don't think it'll go to that because that's only computer. And I do think the committee improved again last year. I liked the field that the committee seeded. I didn't agree with all the seeds. I thought it got the 12 teams right, but I do like the fact that you have, in theory, more people in there, more coaches in the room that understand the eye test. And the eye test for Notre Dame showed at the end of the year, Notre Dame should have been in the field as well as what the computer said about Notre Dame. Now, the humans screwed it up.
Yeah, those coaches screwed it up this time.
Alliances. And that's why, I contend that right now, I understand the ACC is 17 brands. I truly believe the ACC needs Notre Dame more than Notre Dame needs the ACC. And the metrics that Pete Bavacqua cited back it up. The television metrics that are released every year back it up. And I just think that's the way it should be. So
it's an unfortunate. I just like to see they're going to have the show every time. They might do well by not speaking Q&A every time. Like maybe you could go on as the chairman and say, we have Ohio State here because of this. We have Notre Dame here because of this. We have Miami here because of this, and not take Q&A where someone's asking you questions and you just mess up every week.
Yeah,
You just keep messing up on your answers, man.
You can see the sweat on the upper lip of those guys every year, year after year after year.
Make them sweat. The billions of dollars involved, answer some damn questions.
Yeah, but they don't get it right. They just make stuff. Notre Dame has game control. Then game control doesn't count all of a sudden when you get to the actual vote. It's like the problem is it changes all the time. Game control was a great idea. Did they consider game control?
Yeah, when it fit their purposes.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's hard to the transparency is going to be hard to find.
Yeah. All right. From Indy Yinzer. Who at this point would be your biggest surprise returning player for 2026, whether for draft or transfer? And who would be the biggest surprise leaving player for either draft or transfer? All of this meaning reasonable players, of course, not staples such as CJ Carr, Leonard Moore, etc. I think you made TP start first the last time, so T.O., we will go to you first this time.
I mean, because Pete Bavacqua mentioned he was going to be one of the opt-outs. Emil Wagner would be my biggest surprise returnee because he has a couple of options. As JB noted, he can get a lot of money as a starting tackle elsewhere, and Notre Dame could be inclined to allow that to happen. And he could go pro because he's played 3 football seasons in 2 seasons with his 1,700 snaps, right? In these 2 seasons, he started 28 games in 2 seasons. Bavacqua makes me make this my choice because that would be the biggest surprise. I've been given multiple reasons why he might not be at Notre Dame, so he would be my biggest surprise returnee. In terms of I think I'm going with Wagner. I'll go to you guys first.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I would have said, we talked about this last podcast, I think we all would have said Jalen Sneed a while back, but now, especially
biggest surprise returning player.
Biggest surprise returning player, yeah. Jalen Sneed. I would still say that I think Jabron Payne would be the biggest surprise, and we do have the portals opening up here in a little bit.
I was going high end. of the roster because I can name 20 guys that would surprise me if they're back at this point.
No, but the day will come when an established player just gets a monster bid from somebody else.
So not whack, but you're outside of a guy like that.
I'm just talking
underclass.
Like, let's just say, I mean, you could see somebody giving Tay Johnson a monster opportunity. I'm not saying he's going to take that.
It's a great example, though, because he's an underclassman no one has on the radar.
That would be one of the better examples. The day will come when somebody says, now it'd be rare at Notre Dame because of how Marcus Freeman recruits and fit and culture and all that. But somewhere along the line that will happen.
It will be rare at Notre Dame unless it's a guy that just finished his freshman year. Then it won't be rare because you're not ensconced in the university as much. You're not seeing the degree at all. Like if Aeneas Williams last year with his great Penn State game, and Price and Love say we're both coming back.
Oh, that's a good.
He could have easily taken all the offers he had. That would have been a simple one. Tay Johnson, and Notre Dame would have had to be like, well, we can't go crazy paying Aeneas Williams because you have Price and Love coming back. Whereas Notre Dame will go crazy to pay Tay Johnson. But that's a great point. Like a non-graduating player, the day will come someday where we're all like, whoa, what, really?
Where an SEC school just throws a bundle at them and Notre Dame's like, well, I mean, Notre Dame would certainly hesitate. When we throw out an example like Tay Johnson, I mean, he looks like the next Kyle Hamilton. So
he can make a ton of money anywhere he wants.
Yeah.
JB, any differences there?
No, no, not really. I mean, I think those are the ones for me that you guys discussed. I still think the Billy Schrauth situation is very compelling. And just whether or not he decides to go on and try his luck in the NFL, because he has had to battle a couple of different injuries at Notre Dame, and when he's on the field, he's really freaking good. But it's a lot of wear and tear there in the trenches. So those would be the ones that would surprise me the most.
There's still a ton of tread on Schrauth.
Yeah.
Surprise is tough because we've talked about every player and the possibility of them going pro or being offered money. Like last year, now, like if Don Schuler goes pro, I'm not surprised he went pro. If Don Schuler goes pro, because he's a great player that decides to go pro. Like last year, if a Don Schuler left, that would have been your Priester. That's your example. You're like, holy, are you kidding me? That would, I don't think there's going to be one of those because we've talked about Schuler could go pro. Christian Gray could go pro. Emil Wagner could go pro, or as JB said, get $1.5 million somewhere as a Notre Dame graduate. That isn't a bad thing.
Seriously, yeah.
He's a graduate, so that's not that big of a deal for him either. Billy Schrauth could go pro. Jalen Sneed has his linebacker coaches at Michigan State. I'm not going to be shocked if Jalen Sneed goes to Michigan State. I'd be surprised if he just goes somewhere random at this point. But there's so many guys we've talked about. The surprises now are few and far between. But it's who this could have been. Who do you not want to lose out of these guys? Would have been the question. I think.
I don't.
Way to go.
I don't know the field of safeties for the NFL draft, but off the top of my head, but like where do you guys think let's say Schuler declared, where do you think he would go? Round wise, of course.
I would think round 3.
Yeah. But where would he go next year? I think Schuler's coming back. I just said a Don Schuler because I'm not going to fall over if a Don Schuler chooses to go to the NFL.
No, but I'm going to be really disappointed because of what that starting secondary.
Yeah, but like it's like that is still a business decision. It's not an insanity thing if you were to decide to do something like that. That's a quality business. Like if Charles Jogissa says I'm going pro, I'll fall over.
Right.
From not playing. Like, Don Schuler has played a lot of football.
Right.
For Notre Dame. But so Jogissa, there you go. That's the best player I can think of. If Jogissa is not on Notre Dame next year, I will be shocked that he chooses something like that. That would be a huge surprise for me.
Question number 7 is from Irish Esquire. Is part of the delay in a Marcus Freeman extension announcement center around negotiations for position coaches? I'm not sure how much more Notre Dame will pay to keep a DB coach, but I hope Freeman is trying to find out.
I like how he dropped that in there.
We all
have the same coach in mind. So
I don't think the DB coach is lacking for anything at this stage, but there's always room for another bump, isn't there?
Yeah.
Always. I don't really think it's that. I think that I was told Notre Dame assistant salary pool is either top 5 or top 8 in college football. I mean, you got a bunch of guys that are 7-figure earners now as assistant coaches. So Jawan Sider, Mike Mickens,
I was gonna say
Lauren Lando.
They didn't lose one of the higher ones either in Max Bullock, right? That is a 2-year
coordinators. Coach. Yeah,
would that be right? He would have been normal range of good.
Probably,
yeah. He was, yeah, definitely. So no, I don't think that. I don't think Notre Dame assistant coach's salary pool is lacking. I think that it's incredibly competitive. I just think there are a lot of layers to this, and some NFL teams have expressed interest. I don't get the sense that that's the direction that Marcus Freeman wants to go right now. I'm talking to people as late as last night. So I think Notre Dame is very confident this gets wrapped up. T.O., I know you have thoughts as well.
I'd be really surprised, despite all the NFL overtures we keep hearing, if it's this year. Like I'd be shocked if it's this year. I won't be shocked if it's any other year. I will be absolutely shocked. So.
I agree with that. Somebody asked me on a message board the other day about, why is everybody talking about Marcus Freeman as an NFL coach? Clearly he fits in college, et cetera. And look, we're not making up this interest from the NFL.
I was going to say, this isn't our theory.
Yeah, we didn't concoct this theory. This is reality. And that's why I mentioned a couple podcasts ago that, the vetting process didn't just start now. It started last year, at least last year. But, here's my thought with Freeman. Do I think Freeman's ready to be an NFL head coach? Well, maybe not. But would you put it, first of all, he hasn't turned 40 yet. He's about to do that. Would you put it past Marcus Freeman to think that, 2, 3, 4, however many years, he will be better prepared to, yeah, I mean, he's a college coach. I get it. His motivation works for 18 to 23-year-olds. But why couldn't Marcus Freeman learn and adapt and as he gets older, be better prepared to coach in the NFL? He's a brilliant college football coach. Why can't he be a brilliant NFL coach in time?
I'd also like to point out that us bringing these things up when people tell us information has nothing to do with our opinion of what someone will be as a pro coach. We're not saying I think Marcus Freeman is a better fit in pro and in college, and that's why he's
No.
eventually going to go. We're just pointing out he has extensive interest in him. That's it. I think Marcus Freeman, some people always keep asking this question, is a ideal college coach. That doesn't mean he wouldn't be a good pro coach too, but I will hammer the table to say Marcus Freeman relates to college players, and as Pete Bavacqua said, is by far the best coach for Notre Dame. For Notre Dame. Doesn't mean he's the best coach in the country. He is by far the best coach for Notre Dame's football program.
Here's why I think yeah, he's still learning and growing, and he's still got some in-game things like that. And you have to be
Yeah.
super buttoned down at those elements, even more so at the next level. You don't see a guy as brilliant as Anthony Tresh standing right beside Sean McVay every week or anything like that. But the
That would
way
be weird if
the way
Sean
it's been
McVay was
put to me,
questioning someone.
yeah, but the
Go
way
ahead,
it's been
JB.
put to me by people that know Marcus well, that have visited Notre Dame perhaps as visiting coaches, or that have visited Notre Dame on NFL staffs as scouts or position coaches or things like that, they all talk about how he's a natural leader of men. And that's to me, look at what Dan Campbell is doing in Detroit. And maybe they're a little up and down this year, but Dan Campbell is a leader of men. Marcus Freeman is a natural alpha leader of men. That's why I think there's so much talk about him going to the NFL. And he's so freaking young. And he was one of the youngest head coaches in college football when he took over arguably the most storied program ever in college football. And within 3 years, he had them playing for a national championship.
Our next question comes from Irish Gambler. Could you offer insight into how NIL is actually divided? Maybe offense, defense, special teams, position group? Looking for some context here. Is there an ideal percentage to each side of the ball, or is allocation more dependent on who's on the roster? And I did go back, guys. Go ahead, JB. But I did go back and find Mike Martin's initial comments on this.
Yeah, no, it's very much tiered. It's not only tiered by the classes of incoming players and structured so on, then it also has tiers, whether you're a starter, are you a core player who also starts on special teams. They allocate certain amounts for certain positions of priority. Offensive tackles are a priority position. Defensive linemen, priority position. They have a tiered structure to disseminate the salary. Is it exactly 50-50 or 45-45 and 10% for the special teams? I don't pretend to know that exact breakdown. I do know with absolute certainty that there is the tiering and the allocation of funds for position groups and then players within those position groups. Tio.
TP, think about how much, NJB, how much Leonard Moore threw this thing off last year. Like, you're planning on Notre Dame's secondary and cornerback group, all right? And Benjamin Morrison, you know he's leaving when the season starts. You're like, all right, well, Benjamin Morrison's our highest paid player on defense. He's gone. Corner's going to get this. Then all of a sudden, Leonard Moore, you're like, oh, he needs a $800,000 bump real fast. So we're going to go ahead and make cornerback a little different. And then Leonard Moore gets that, and the next best safety or corner. It's like, well, why is he getting more than I do here? This is it's a tough thing, but it's a good thing when Leonard Moore is that good that you need that much more money.
Yeah, the job that Mike Martin has to deal with is I don't envy it. And like we're like the players and the parents of the players and the coaches they're all kind of learning it as you go along. And that's why it was important to get a guy like Mike Martin who had an NFL background and understood some of the things that JB's saying in terms of structure and different levels. You have to establish those different levels. Otherwise, you're just grabbing from here and throwing over there on a regular basis. You can't afford to do that. There's too many. It's not a basketball team. I mean, it's a damn football team. There's just too many moving parts. So you have to have that structure. And that's why I think Mike Martin was a really good choice for the job.
And here's one other note I would add, and this comes from I've talked to multiple GMs this week because we've been doing those awards, and the way it was put to me is like you overpay a guy to get him there as a freshman.
Yeah.
You cannot be so stubborn that you keep overpaying him. And I say there in a generic sense. It's Notre Dame doing it. It's Auburn doing it. It's California doing it. It's even G5 programs doing it. And so their point was, you might be sick because you gave a guy $300,000 to $400,000 last year to join your program, and right now you want him back for $25,000, but you don't swallow $350,000 and bring him back at the same rate when you know it's not the best thing for your program and ultimately it's not the best thing for your kid. So
So there,
that's the element.
and adding to that, so therefore, and you've mentioned it, John, about some of the money that guys made last year at Notre Dame, that they're not going to get that offer now. So we are going to, as we move forward in this process, we're going to start to see, that guy's leaving. Like, I think we're going to be surprised by some of
Oh, yeah.
those, simply from a dollars and cents standpoint. When
Oh, yeah.
and when that happens, we're going to suspect, okay, they can't allocate the kind of money they did to him last year, and now this guy's just going in looking for a better offer.
When it's a rising sophomore slash redshirt freshman, you should now know exactly why he left. Because the
Yep.
contract negotiations that are ongoing, there is an inherent awkwardness in contract negotiations. Now imagine the fact that 25% of your employee base has to take a pay cut, and half of those guys have to take an insane pay cut where they couldn't even live if it was a regular job. Well, this isn't, you can't live. You can stay at the university, you have a scholarship, you're getting money.
Right.
But if you had $300,000 and all of a sudden they say, here's 50, that's constant. That's going on constantly. And
There's gonna, yeah,
that's hard, man.
Gonna be a lot of feelings hurt.
Yeah, yes, there are. That's the thing. The one thing I was going to say, Mike Martin, he did say also, like, it was his first day. It was his first day on the job. We asked this question basically, but there's priorities in the portal because of what your roster needs. Like, in other words, if you need a defensive tackle, you got to go get defensive tackles. It's a little different if you need a punter. Like, you need a punter, but you can't function if you're not prioritizing defensive tackle. So you have to go get those guys. But it changes every year. Like, ideally, it won't always be defensive tackle that Notre Dame needs to go get. They could need something else. Quarterback, they don't need it all. But one quarterback got a very hefty pay raise, and that's a good thing for Notre Dame fans, because if you don't have a quarterback making a lot of money, you don't have a chance to win the national title. Final question, Maltese Irish. Does Jaywan Sider have a track record of playing freshmen? Do you believe either of the incoming running backs have the size, strength, and or skill set to do so? TP, why don't you start with the second
Well,
part
if I'm seeing this correctly, I mean, didn't Singleton and
Yes,
Katron Allen play as freshmen?
they did. And I'll go through a list, but that's the most important thing. 2022,
Yeah,
they
they combined
both
for
came in and they were 1-2 punch as freshmen.
yeah, they combined for almost 2,000 yards and 320 carries. So no, he's got a couple good freshmen coming in. I think especially Javion Osborne. I think he has an excellent chance of getting playing time.
Yeah.
Go ahead, JB.
I was just going to say, I didn't go back to 2017 at Florida. I can't remember if he had a freshman running back that year. I believe he might have.
He did. He had Malik Davis was his number 2 back.
Yeah.
Also on that team, Malik Zaire, which was weird to see when I was looking back at Florida.
Yeah, Malik Davis, who's now in the league, and so he will play freshman. He just won't play a lot of guys. So
he may only play freshman.
Yeah, I like Jo. I'm with TP on that one. I think when you talk to people around the industry, when you talk to people in Texas, like, Texas is the best high school football in the country, and this guy was an absolute star in Texas high school football. So I believe that. One other quick note: I was told this week that Florida actually reached out to Jaywan Sider about its running backs job, and he said, "No, I'm good."
I feel like Sider could be a offensive coordinator candidate, not a bounce to be a running back coach candidate. Would you
Yeah,
agree with
Florida's
that?
home, and he had been there before.
Yeah, but it
So I
just
think
feels like
that's why,
his
but
next move is OC.
yeah,
I feel like for Jaywan Sider, especially with the quarterback background,
yep.
seems like he'd work into that. So Tim, I mean, Singleton and Allen are the reason, of course, that Devin Ford left Penn State, because they turned over Devin Ford. Now, I don't think both freshmen are playing over Aeneas Williams. Both freshmen coming in this year would not have gotten a carry over Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, and Aeneas Williams, but it's a different situation. I went back, and I mean, all that matters is Singleton and Allen. But yeah, he did it at West Virginia. I thought you guys would like the name Dreamius Smith. Remember Dreamius Smith and Wendell Smallwood? They both played as freshmen. Kennedy McCoy, 4 touchdowns, 500 yards. He'll play freshman. They just got to be. Everybody will play freshman. It's going to be good. Brian Kelly played freshman. He just didn't play.
Well, especially now, because guys can transfer, guys can go to the NFL. If a guy can play him.
There'll be some guys that can play this weekend in college football. There won't be a team that can win the national title. They'll be sitting at home. Can one team playing this weekend win the national title?
Oregon. I think Oregon could win.
Good point. Oregon could win the national title. All right, one team playing this weekend can win the national title. There could have been two. There is not. We will have another podcast, though, after it's all over on Monday, December 22nd. For John Bryce of Football Scoop, Tim Priester of Irish Illustrated, I'm Tim O'Malley. Thank you for watching and listening. Irish Illustrated Insider.